Welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. You know, many give up hope when they're diagnosed with a devastating illness, but today's guest took control of their lives despite what doctors had to say. Now, they've been given a second chance on life. My first guest knew something was terribly wrong with her daughter only weeks after she was born. I want you to take a look at this.
I realized that something was wrong with Grace pretty much about a week after we brought her home. She did a lot of eye rolling and she did a lot of non-tracking, like when I would take a rattle or a toy, she never seemed to follow me. When I would look at her, it was like she looked through me instead of at me. So we went to the ophthalmologist and Grace started to do this movement with her eyes and started rolling her eyes. And he said to me, you know, ma'am, I think that your daughter's having seizures. By 5 months of age, they had to place a feeding tube. And she was blind, still suffered from seizures. Her stem cell was shutting down and she was dying and they didn't know why. And I remember the geneticists came in and they said, we know what's wrong with Grace. I was so happy. In my mind, the fact that they found a diagnosis meant that we could treat Grace. That unfortunately, in the same breath that she said, we have a diagnosis, they told me that I had no prognosis. And they told me that she had this rare disease called mitochondrial cytochrome C reductase deficiency. At that time, they could only find 4 other kids in the world cited in medical journals as having this. Grace was 1.5 years, and no child had lived past the age of 2. They told us to take Grace home, that, you know, I did everything I could do to get the diagnosis, and we found out what was wrong. And the problem is that it's a terminal disease. I couldn't imagine my life without my daughter, and I certainly couldn't imagine burying my daughter.
Please welcome Shannon to the show. And so often, so many other people are sitting at home right now are in the same boat. They go to a doctor, and a doctor will give us a diagnosis. And we have been raised and taught our entire lives to pay attention to what authority figures have to say. And one of the top authority figures that they put in our face is a doctor. But what happens is, a lot of times, parents will listen to what a doctor says, take that as gospel, walk out the door, and in some cases, do exactly what they were going to try to make you do, and that was go home and watch your child die.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
Grace is born. You carried her, everything went normal. Mm-hmm. Everything seemed normal through delivery, through birth. You started to notice something because I think it's just part of an inherent, what goes on inside of a mother, but you're looking at your baby. This is your first child?
Second.
Second, so you already knew what to expect.
Yes, I did.
Something's just not right.
Right. And I called our doctor many times. I mean, when we go back and we look, it was like over 45 times I called them and I said to them, something's not right with Grace.
And what were you seeing when you saw something wasn't right with her?
She wasn't, I was breastfeeding and she wasn't latching on, and I breastfed with my first daughter, so I knew what I was doing, and they kept...
She wasn't holding you, wasn't grabbing.
Exactly, right? Like she wasn't latching, she wasn't tracking when I took a rattle to her. She did a lot of flipping with her eyes would roll up and down constantly, and it was like every time I went to get her, she just had this glazed look on her. It was as if, I mean, I always say she was looking through me. She never looked at me like my other daughter did.
And now in hindsight, you know that during that period of time, had doctors paid attention to what you had said, they would have realized that early on your daughter was going through multiple seizures, seizure after seizure after seizure after seizure.
Yes.
That probably could have lessened some of the damage.
Absolutely.
No question.
No question.
All right, but we don't know this. So you go to see the doctor, she's normal, it's okay, stop being a hypochondriac mother. Finally, a doctor did note that eye movement's not normal.
Right, and it was actually, we were supposed to see the neurologist in the same day at the clinic, and instead they met us at the hospital. And they did an EEG on her in the hospital, and within like 5 minutes admitted her, and
knew she was
having seizures.
This is at the 6-month mark, too, correct?
This was at 3 months.
3 months. And at 3 months, tell them, how much did your baby weigh?
My baby had continued to drop weight. By that time, she was probably back to 4 to 5 pounds.
A 3-month-old baby at 4 to 5 pounds?
Yes.
Which normally is around 14 to 15 pounds.
Right.
18 pounds, somewhere before you're a big baby, about 18 pounds. So 4 to 5 pounds. And now, she's not putting on any weight at all. No,
she wasn't putting on any weight. And so then she was failure to thrive, and her seizures...
That diagnosis came...
That came when... it's funny, because that didn't come until we were in the hospital. Yet I was taking Grace to the doctor the whole time. But until we got admitted into the hospital, then all of a sudden at 5 months, they come to us and they say, we have to place a feeding tube. that your daughter is going to die if we don't place a feeding tube.
And at this point in time, not only they can come up to you and tell you symptomatically what's wrong, but nobody has an answer to what's wrong.
No. They felt Grace's seizures had turned into infantile spasms to the brain because they went untreated. And then they started to say to me, there's something more. There's an underlying cause for your daughter's seizures and her failure to thrive. And that is when our journey started.
Let's talk about that for half a second. Somebody looks you in the face and says, your child has, and see, for those of you who don't understand what this means, failure to thrive means we don't know.
And that's what they would say. And
they don't know.
They don't know. They said, we have the seizure medicine, and we don't know what's wrong. And I pushed and pushed to say, you got to tell me what's wrong, because I have another daughter, and I need to know why you're telling me my daughter is dying. And you can't just tell me that and then expect me to say, okay, let's go home and be a family.
And just wait for her to die.
And wait for her to die. That wasn't something that I could comprehend.
I got to take a break, but I'm going to tell you, you did more in prompting the doctors to dig harder. There's medication, there's things out there that a lot of us don't even have the slightest clue exist. But the only way you're going to find out about it is if you start digging and doing the research yourself. That's exactly what you did, right? You started digging.
I dug.
They gave you the diagnosis, and you dug. And when we come back, you're going to find out something that will blow you out the door. I'm going to take a little break. We'll be back right after this.
I went with parents that I met throughout the time that went and picked out baby caskets, and it was something that I couldn't let my baby die. I didn't know how to let go.
We're talking today about medical breakthroughs that have given some people a second chance at life. And again, welcome Shannon to the show. I have to say, as much as you're digging in to find out information was as important to what's happened in Grace and your daughter's life, this is really a testament also to the love of a mother, because, and I'm not saying that other mothers don't love their child if they don't do the amount of work, but this is a mother who said, I'm not taking that. You're not going to tell me my daughter's just going to die and nobody can explain to me why. I want a reason. That's really why you embarked upon this mission, correct?
It is.
So once given, and again, say what the diagnosis was, mitochondrial?
Cytochrome C reductase deficiency.
Which means?
Which means, that's what I said. What it means is that Grace lacks the energy-producing cells in her body.
And now, at this point in time, too, by the time they gave you the diagnosis, they already said to you, your daughter's blind.
But this time, we got her diagnosis when she was 1.5 years old. We were at a clinic. She'd just got done having a brain biopsy, and a muscle biopsy came back positive for this disease when we were at this other clinic, and they came and they told us, and at this time Grace would have been 1.5 years. She wasn't even 8 pounds at 1.5 years.
At 1.5 years.
She had a feeding tube.
And most babies are well into 25, 30 pounds by then.
Exactly. And she was fed through a feeding tube. She had a lot of seizures. She was not regulating her own temperature, so she had to be kept warm under heat lamps. She didn't hold her head up. I mean, she wasn't a normal developing baby physically, and she still was staring off. Even with all the medication, she was not a child that was present or there.
So then all of a sudden you see in the research, as you're looking, there's something that's out there, a little over here. A lot of doctors don't buy it, but this might be my last chance, correct?
That is correct.
And it was?
It was hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
Hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And, when you say that to doctors, especially now we're starting to find out that this also has some ramifications for a lot of other illnesses.
Yes.
You find out about it? It's very expensive?
Very.
You had to raise the money on your own?
Raise the money. Family members sold everything they have. Communities came together to help us get the...
And Grace was how old at this point?
When we started hyperbaric therapy, Grace was 3 years old. She weighed approximately 15 pounds, between 12 and 15 pounds at age 3. She was blind, feeding tube, seizures. And most importantly, she didn't know who I was. I mean, Grace wasn't a child that knew that I loved her and I wanted her there. My purpose for doing this was that when we were told at Mayo Clinic to take Grace home, they actually told me that I needed to seek help. That I needed to get help. That I was holding on to something, and that I wasn't being a good mom to my other daughter because I was focusing so much on Grace. But I didn't know how I could go and pick out. I went with parents that I met throughout the time that went and picked out baby caskets, and it was something that I couldn't let my baby die. I didn't know how to let go, and I turned to hyperbarics to let go. I didn't know it was going to work, but it was the only thing that I didn't try, and I knew that if I didn't try it, I would never be a mother to Lily.
And let's back up for a second, because most of the children, they only saw 4 other cases like your daughter.
And they all died.
All died before the age of 2.
And they gave me her diagnosis at 1.5.
You started the hyperbaric
When Grace
treatments
was
when?
3. I waited a year because I listened. I listened to my doctors that had taken care of her for so long.
And again, when she starts it, blind, feeding tube, inability to eat, seizures, inability to even really move or control any of her muscles.
Yeah, she didn't sit up. She didn't have that control. She didn't play like a normal 3-year-old.
After the 10th treatment, what happened to your daughter?
She was there. She looked at me instead of
Not only did she look at you, but she saw you.
She saw me.
This is a child who has been called blind by every doctor that's seen her. 10 treatments that doctors told this woman she's crazy for even attempting to do. Now you got a daughter that can see. The feeding tube is removed.
Yes.
She's starting to move her arms and limbs and muscles.
Yes.
And actually tracking your voice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The hyperbarics brought her back to us. It brought her
We just
to
saw a little
us.
piece of tape of her, I guess, after she started this process, what, after 20, she started crawling?
Yes, she started to, we've done hyperbarics now for 3 years, but she started to wake up and she started to grasp things. And this is when she first started to crawl. And back then I remember, if that's all I get, I'm happy, because she's crawling and she has her feeding tube removed and she can have some chances of normal life. I didn't really know what was going to happen in the future at this point still.
Let me take a little break. We'll be back right after this.
Every morning, we get up and we go into the chamber, we get her ready for school, and it's difficult. She leads a normal life of a first grader, even though she still has some handicaps.
And you went away to do a speaking engagement or something, did you not?
Yes, I did.
Right.
I talked to moms of special needs kids about hope and possibility, not giving up hope.
And while away,
How
many treatments had Grace been under?
By now, at that time, Grace had about 750 treatments over a 3-year period.
3-year period of time. And doctors who said the girl will never see, she's not going to be able to communicate, she's not going to be able to recognize people, brain function is pretty much gone, can't walk. While you were away, when you flew back in, what happened when you got off that airplane?
I saw my daughter walk to me out of her wheelchair, all on her own without anybody helping her. She walked right to me.
And this was 5 weeks ago. So since walking 5 weeks ago, it seems almost anything is going to be possible for Grace. Take a look at this.
She's a very happy child. The only thing different in Grace's life is that, every morning, we get up and we go into the chamber, we get her ready for school, and it's difficult.
Okay, Gracie. I do this every morning, 5:30 to 6:30. I know you're tired. Let's go.
The simple things in life, having Grace pick up, just even pick up a banana. I'm like the happiest mother in the world that my daughter can pick up a little piece of banana and put it in her mouth. Those things are like huge to me.
Go to school.
Let's go to school. Are you ready?
She walks to school with her sister, but she leads a normal life of a first grader, even though she still has some handicaps. This is what we do. Every day when Grace gets off the school bus, we come to Wisconsin Hyperbarics, and this is the treatment room that Grace goes to every day, 5 days a week. She gets in one of these chambers. Let's go get your hood on. So then this is what we have to go through every day. We have a special hood that Grace puts on, and she's getting the 100% oxygen delivered to her. So that's what they do. They measure, and so it fits her particularly. This is her own very own hood.
You ready to get in?
She loves the chamber. It's like a second home to her, so.
Up you go. Yep. Yep.
We're all done. That's right. Say bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. See you later. Bye, guys. See you tomorrow.
I feel good because she used to not be able to do so many things, and now she can do all these wonderful things that she can never do before.
And this is an incredible thing because I never thought that this would ever happen. Happy birthday. This was Grace's first birthday party with friends. So this is a really, really cool thing.
Developmentally, Grace is still a little bit behind,
Yes.
right? However, you're seeing improvements even in that area, are you not? She couldn't speak.
Right, and now as she is talking, she's mimicking her sister and she's engaging. Her teachers catch up every single day. We see some improvement every day. We see something new in Grace.
So I go back to the thought, had you never, ever, ever taken this chance, what could life be right now?
If I had never started hyperbaric therapy, I have 100% know that Grace would be an angel in heaven. She was dying, literally dying. Her body was shutting down. And I know that if I would not have pushed this so much and wouldn't have gone with my gut to know if I would have given up hope, if you don't have hope, you have nothing. And I couldn't, there's selfish reasons. I mean, it was that I, as a mom, just couldn't let my baby die because I just didn't know how I could live. And I had to live for Lily. So her being here is because of the hyperbaric therapy, but it's all about the hope and the people that you surround yourself with. You have to surround yourself with positive people, physicians that are innovative, that it's okay to take chances.
What do all those physicians who told you to give up, all those family members who said you're wasting your time, what are they saying to you now that they see that you've got a daughter who's thriving?
I still have those doctors that will just stick to their guns no matter what.
I'm going to tell you, now, that right there, that's part of the problem that we have with the American medical system, because you got these people who have more attitude about their own personal opinions and whether or not somebody's countered what they believe rather than searching for the truth. Thank you so much for being an example of what mothers should do. Absolutely. I got to take a little break. When we come back, I'm going to tell you another one. We have a man who had difficulty.